After doing so many different experiments, I can finally do one where I can choose any color I want. But that's exactly where things get very dangerous, because freedom in color choice can sabotage your creativity. To underline my point, I'm going to take you to 4 different art exhibitions of post-impressionist painters that I've been to in London over the last 10 years. But before I do that, let me quickly introduce another watercolor pencil experiment. For those who've been following me in the past, I have shown you many different experiments of painting with watercolor pencils, for which I used the template of a stylized rose. What those experiments had in common was that my choice of colors was somewhat limited. For example, I did a painting with the minimum number of pencils, which was just 3 pencils, or I did the complete opposite. I did a painting with the maximum number of pencils, which was 24 pencils, 24 colors. I also did a painting where the dominant color was black, or I did a painting with the most represented color in my pencil case, which was blue. And all of these experiments finally led to this one point where I could decide what colors of my own choice I wanted to use. In other words, I could choose any number of pencils and any colors I wanted to use for this painting of a stylized rose. However, there is a hidden danger, which I'm going to talk to you about today, and I'm going to link this to the Post-Impressionists. So we're going to learn a great lesson from their paintings. From my own experience as an art teacher, whenever we work with color, students very often have a predetermined image what colors they should use. These are basically common color perceptions and associations, such as grass is green, sky is blue, sun is yellow, or rose is red. We naturally associate certain colors with certain subjects. This is how our mind works. Our mind is already limited. It's projecting what the final color should be. So the result itself is already fixed. And this is the hidden danger behind your own choice of colors. We tend to go for what we know, for the known, but it is the unknown that gives the spirit and energy to our own artworks. If you insist to paint grass as green, sky is blue and sun is yellow, that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. This episode is not about discouraging you from doing so, but it is about consciously being aware of this hidden danger, and I will also show you how you can consciously work with it. The best way to demonstrate this is how the great masters themselves work with this challenge, because it has been around for a long time in the history of art. It was probably in the second half of the 19th century when this convention was consistently broken. As promised, I'm going to take you to 4 different art exhibitions of post-impressionists who consistently broke this fixed color perceptual generalizations in their paintings. We're going to start with the exhibition of Van Gogh at Courtauld Gallery in London. Vincent van Gogh was a Dutch post-impressionist, and let's start with this painting. It's a pretty famous painting of Van Gogh's self-portrait. He already chopped off his ear by the time he painted this. That's the reason why his ear is all wrapped up. And let's look at the skin tone of his face, which is very yellowish with a hint of green and blue. And look at his eyes, which are dark green and which mirror the color of his jacket. As we can see here, Van Gogh painted his face in a different color to what we would normally perceive it. Let's go to more recent Van Gogh's exhibition. This one was at the National Gallery in London, and in the very last room, which was the highlight of that exhibition for me, there were multiple paintings of olive trees. And amongst those paintings there was this painting. It has typical Van Gogh's brushwork, but look at how vibrant the colors are. Look at the olive trees themselves. There is white, blue, green and orange, and the same goes for the ground, where we can see orange, light blue, yellow, green and white. We can see that Van Gogh painted the ground in many different colors. Okay, moving on. Next, let's look at paintings of Paul Cézanne, who was a French post-impressionist. And he had a massive exhibition at Tate Modern in London a few years ago. And again, we're gonna look at another painting of a landscape. Cézanne very often painted the peak of Mont Saint-Victoire in Provence, in France, and here is one of these paintings. This time let's focus on the sky. We often associate blue with the sky, but obviously if you go for a walk during different times of the day, for example in the evening, during the sunset, you can see a lot of colors in the sky, ranging from blue to red to yellow and to other colors. But you probably would not see green. And yet Cézanne painted a green color in the sky of this painting, which I find very interesting. Let's look at another example. This is a painting of a human figure, more specifically a painting of a bather, and from a distance this looks very natural. His body and the skin color look very natural. But if we zoom in, we can see hints of green, blue and yellow. And this is a more subtle example because from a distance you would not normally notice that Cézanne actually mixed colors such as green and blue into the skin color of this person, and it's quite natural looking and giving the painting a nice color balance. Moving on to the third painter, Paul Gauguin, who is a French post-impressionist and who had an amazing exhibition at the National Gallery several years ago, and we're going to look at one of his paintings of still life. Usually he is known for painting human figures, especially Tahitians, but he also painted several still lifes, one of which is the still life with sunflowers, and sunflowers like the sun we often associate with the yellow color. So let's zoom in and look at the insides of these flowers. Apart from a range of yellows, we can see purple, white, orange and green. And I don't know if you have noticed, but in all of these paintings, these three painters very often worked with color reflections, where the colors of the surrounding objects or the background projected themselves onto the main subject. For example, in the first painting where I showed you the color of Van Gogh's eyes, which was matching the color of his jacket. And the same thing we can see here, where the purple and orange colors of the vase are reflected in the sunflowers themselves. By doing so, they achieve beautiful color balance in their paintings. As we can see, these three great painters introduce unrelated colors into the painted subjects, and I wanted to show you that they had done this across different subjects. So we saw paintings of a landscape, a portraiture, a human figure and a still life. In all of those they broke the color generalizations such as grass is green, sky is blue and sun is yellow. And we could go on with many more examples of other painters who did the same thing, but I think you get the main point by now. So it's time to go back to my experiment where I could finally do a painting of a rose with colors of my own choice. And at this point of my experimentation journey, I could not help myself. I really wanted to use the red or the reddish colors that are often associated with a rose. I insisted on my rose to be red, and as I said in the beginning, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. So I looked at my pencil case where I have 24 different colors, and I basically picked these 5 colors. I picked bright pink, rose, red, deep red and orange, which I think 99% of us would pick as well. But, and this is very important, because I was aware of this hidden danger of using colors associated with the drawn subject, I also did this. For every color we would normally associate with a red rose, I picked another color which we would not normally associate with a red rose. So I also picked purple, cadmium yellow, dark blue, dark green and sea green, and I created this watercolor pencil painting. So from 24 different colors, I picked 10 colors, 10 pencils in total to create this painting that I call the Magnificent 10. And the main point of this episode is a great lesson from the post-impressionist masters, and that is that if you insist on using the colors that you would normally associate with a drawn subject, don't be afraid to add other colors which you would not normally associate with a drawn subject, to add something extra to your paintings and drawings, to make them more intriguing, to make them more interesting. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully see you next time. Bye for now.